Hi there. I am a very process person and I don't think too much of a goal, but I do understand the value of or the motivational value of having a goal. So let me first quickly, okay, we are slight technical issue, but we are back. So what I was saying is that I am a very process person and I don't attach too much value to a goal. Of course, I do understand that you need a goal to be motivated from time to time. And for example, I'm preparing for TCS 10K, which is next week. So while I do my drills, I do my runs, every now and then I do check my pace. And that's the value of a goal. You don't look at it daily. Hi, my name is Anshuman Tiwari, and this is your favorite show, Manage Better, where we bring achievers who can share lessons that help us get better at work and in life. This series started as a 10-part series. Don't laugh. 10-part series in July 2020, and I thought 10 will be a lot. Who will come to my show? Maybe two sessions, three sessions. Khich khach ke, we will do 10 and then retire. And but with your love and affection and some madness from my part and a lot of glaring eyes from my family, I have reached today 100. You might want to believe all that, but I actually don't. The real reason is when I started doing these sessions, my wife Nupur once asked me, "You are putting in so much effort into all this, as if that fellow Ankur Warikoo will ever come to your show." So I didn't say much that day because I wanted to remain a good husband. I actually wanted to remain some husband. That is enough. And but I hope today she's watching this, so I can't use any more words because I still want to remain a husband. But every journey needs a milestone and needs some friends. And Niharika has been one such friend. We met during the LinkedIn Creator Accelerator program, and we were introduced. But a curious mind connected us, and we've been connected since then. She's an entrepreneur in her own right, very famous. I'll bring her onto the stage. And it was her idea actually that, with the 100 coming, let us try Ankur, and Ankur graciously accepted. Before we bring him in, Niharika, any opening comments from you, and would you like to introduce Ankur as I bring him into the feed?
Yeah, firstly, thank you for having me. There's only one LinkedIn Live I've done, and that was as your guest. And now I'm co hosting one, so I feel really, really privileged and special. I don't think Variku needs an introduction, but if I had to describe him, I would say he's a teacher. And there's so much that I've learned from him. In fact, I was pretty surprised because recently my grandmom told me she watches his YouTube. And I'm just like, but why are you watching his YouTube? I don't think you're his target audience. She said, नहीं वो आ जाता है तो मैं देख लेती हूँ फिर मैं चलाती रहती हूँ back to back. So I think he has won many many hearts, and I'm so happy that he's going to be here and win yours too.
So here he is. Namaste, Ankurji, and welcome to the show.
Thank you so much. Thanks a lot, Achuman. Thanks a lot, Niharika. It's so wonderful to hear all the lovely things that you had to share, and immense love to your grandmom, Niharika. I'm always super thrilled and like literally keep biting myself, pinching myself कि क्या ये वाकई में हो रहा है कि नहीं हो रहा है. But firstly,
Right.
I have to say this. I am in a very enviable spot in life where a lot of people reach out to me for podcast discussions, interviews, and there is one thing that has worked for me in my life, and that is consistency. And that's the same measure that I evaluate people on as well. तो मेरा standard response होता है अंशुमन that credit to you for starting a podcast, for running a podcast. लेकिन मेरे लिए start is easy, continuing is harder. So if you want me to be there on your podcast, I would love to be the 100th guest because that tells me that you have run the entire course. And if I still make sense at that 100th point, then please bring me in. You have my word already. So it's such an honor to come on your 100th episode. It is incredible how for the last 4 years you've been at it and you've done it so well. And it is no mean feat. जो आपने पहले 10 एपिसोड सोचे थे वो अब 100 हो गए हैं जल्द 1000 हो जाएंगे चलता रहेगा as long as you enjoy it and you keep learning from it. And it is an absolute privilege to be the 100th person on this show. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Ankur. And saying all this doesn't get you away from any questions that we have. So,
I certainly don't mean to.
but really, thank you very much. And in a way, you describe every creator's journey, right? So there are millions of creators today who start, and I did put it in my promo yesterday that everybody wants to be a creator today and an influencer tomorrow, and it doesn't happen like that. There is some people might get it faster, some may take time, but the journey is actually quite long and painful and needs perseverance. Okay, so since it is my show, Niharika, I will ask the first question. Okay. Uh, so this is a little bit of a conversational show, Ankur. So
Sure.
you might, unlike some of your videos where only you talk, we might also talk. And if you didn't notice, we plastered LinkedIn yesterday with the promotions for this show, and many people called me and said that you have become the Ankur Warikoo of YouTube today because because so many ads are there today. So I take it as a compliment if somebody sees it that way. Coming to questions. So you are the Ankur Warikoo today, right? So obviously we all know the journey and you know it better than many. But looking back, what were those moments when you realized that this could happen? And I'm not talking 20 years ago because you might have not have known, and if you know, then fantastic. But there might have been some moments where you thought, okay, in 2024, this might happen, 2023, this might happen. Any moments or triggers, anything comes to mind?
The honest admission, Anshuman, is I always believe something is happening, but I don't know what is happening. What I mean by that is मैं एक बहुत ही optimistic इंसान हूँ. I there was this really interesting questionnaire that I filled up recently, which asked people. It's an academic study that's going on in the world, that when you use words like highly likely, never happening, the odds are high, what do you actually mean from a number perspective? So start attaching a probability. Like when you say highly likely, what is the probability in your head? When you say not likely to happen, what is the probability in your head? And not surprisingly, my answer when measured against the world came up that I am irrationally optimistic. So when I say it is unlikely to happen, I still have a 30% probability of it happening. When most people, when they say something is unlikely to happen, they're giving it a 5 to 10% probability of happening. So मेरे लिए everything is happening, and I really feel that the world is a wonderful place. Nature has its way of solving a lot of complexities that we as normal humans cannot wrap our head around. And my job is to constantly keep showing up, showing up, showing up, showing up, and let universe take its course of action. So it's a very dichotomous relationship that I have where I don't know where I'm headed, what am I going to lead to, which goal or target will I ever hit if I hit at all. But constantly, I know that something good is going to happen. And constantly, I believe that something meaningful is going to come up from this experience. And that's why it's very hard when people ask me this question, Kya chal raha hai, Ankur? What's new? What's next? I don't know what's next. And I don't know what's new. I'm a very process driven person. I'm a very routine driven individual. So there is nothing new. My life is exactly the way it was 4 years back. You just see a different person. I see the same person showing up and doing the things that I've been doing for the last 25 years. And things have thankfully worked out.
Fantastic. I love the process part, Ankur, because you may not know, but my full-time job, day job, is a quality management professional. So if anybody uses the word process, I'm absolutely already in love. So, we have a good friend, CJ, who first of all said hi and also reminded us of a quote. Thank you, CJ, for joining. Um he was the 50th guest, by the way. So he has
Awesome.
he has some credentials to photobomb this show.
Shoes to
Niharika,
fill.
Niharika, over to you.
I think I saw this webinar where you said that you had 6 months of classes left, right? So I know it's like easy to use money, but it's not that easy to lose money and blow it up. Like, and I know you didn't blow it up when you have a family. How did that happen?
It it happened, Niharika, because I was over indexing on what I thought was the best way to use my money. So usually what happens is, and this is a classic mistake that I often speak about, and now I would warn people against. When you live in your own bubble, you think of how to use your money according to that state itself. So if you are in a very safe or a secure environment, you tend to put your money in, say, fixed deposits because that's the bubble you're around. If you are exposed to stock market, you would perhaps do it aggressively in trading, or if you are very disciplined, you will do it in mutual fund SIPs. I was exposed to the startup world, and my world was all startups, and it had been for the last 10 years. So all my money, I kid you not, all of my money was invested in startups, which included mine and included others. And never for a second did I even stop to question whether that was the right thing or not. Like I was so dumb that I genuinely believe that people who put money in mutual funds, in gold, in PF, they are the biggest losers, and I'm the rock star because I'm going to make shitloads of money by putting it into startups. And I love nature's way of telling me where I'm wrong because clearly I was wrong. So while I had paper wealth and I owned equity of companies, including mine, through the investments that I'd made, none of them amounted to anything because I didn't have actual money, actual cash. And it's very illiquid. You don't get the money when you really need it. So when I was staring at COVID hitting everyone and all income streams going to zero, and I'd stepped down as the CEO of my own startup, so there was no quote unquote salary coming in from there. I just had 6 months of money left in the bank with nothing to pay for the bills and no income coming through. And that then propelled me into a whole new world that I'm glad I went on because that thankfully worked out.
I have a tiny follow-up question to this. Do you regret it? क्योंकि हम हमारे साथ क्या होता है like when we make an investment and वो नहीं चलते, but in your case वो तो like बिल्कुल ही नहीं चली, it went down. Do you regret it कि मतलब क्यों किया and I wish I didn't do this type?
No, at 44, you're wise enough to not regret anything that you've done because that is the precise reason why you are where you are in life. If it hadn't worked out that way, maybe you wouldn't have learned your lessons that same way. So I don't, and I'm often asked this question of what would you change about your life? Do you regret anything? And my answer is no, no, no. I would not change anything in my life. I would go through the exact same journey happily again. And I don't regret making any decision because that decision then taught me a lot because I do reflect on my mistakes and I'm very proud of doing that. And so I love mistakes because then that tells me where I'm wrong and I hopefully will not make the same mistake again. But if I don't even encounter that mistake or make that mistake, then I will never know what my blind spot is, and I may just continue living in my own bubble, only to perhaps be hit by a bigger brick when I may not be able to suffer the blow.
Yeah, I mean, this is, of course, something that we won't wish on anybody, but this
Yeah.
is how it happened, and I'm glad we are hearing from you. In many ways, in a smaller scale, something similar happened to me, and I usually don't share, but in this maybe I can. I had a career accident some years ago, and with a full-time employee, in times like this, if you have a career accident, what do you do? That's when I realized that, if I want a income stream 5 years, 10 years down the line, the time to start is now. And that's the start of all these, what is now popular as the Brick by Brick guy or the LinkedIn or ManageBetter and this kind of. Fantastic. Moving on. We are getting lots of questions, so I can already tell all the people that, only 1% of the questions will get answered. I will leave my bank account number details, Paytm and all that, and let me know. Okay. Unlike other channels, I can't collect money on this one. But quickly, trying to move faster so that we can take audience questions, which is the intent of this program anyway. Uh, so, do you ever worry, Ankur, that all this will come to an end? There won't be any content. no followers, or your multiple income stream is an insurance against all such days?
No, I don't worry, Anshuman, and I'm not being cocky when I say this. The reason I don't worry is because I'm genuinely not attached to any identity that the world may seem I have. I I'm a very content person in my life. I'm extremely happy where I am. I have a wonderful family. I have a set of really, really good friends. I am my own best friend, and I absolutely love and adore my own company. And thankfully, we have enough and more privilege that will take care of our life, even if it goes through the lifestyle downgrade, if it comes to it. We are not a very materialistic family. We don't have too many possessions. We only have one house. We rent our car. We spend a lot on experiences, and we're happy to let go of those experiences or do it some other way and not stay in the fancy places that we stay in or travel in the fancy way that we do, because we have each other, and that's more important. And there's frankly nothing else that excites us or we are drawn towards. So, from a financial perspective, couldn't care less. I don't have any attachment to the social identity I have. I often say this: all of what my persona is online could go away tomorrow, and I will not regret it even one bit, because this is not who I am. This is how people see I am, but I am who I am, and that's all in my head. It's not on LinkedIn or on YouTube or on Insta or any place else. And that liberates me. It really makes me, I personally feel, a lot more courageous than the amount of courage that most people ought to have, because nothing ties me. I remember, and this is one of the most fascinating interviews I've seen of Bruce Lee, who was a very famous martial artist. If people don't know of him, and there was this interviewer. He had a almost an hour and a half interview, but there's one line that Bruce Lee talks about where he says, "Be like water."
Hmm.
And what he means by that when he says that is, if you put water in a teacup, it becomes the teacup. If you put it in a pot, it becomes the pot. The water does not have its own form, it takes the form of the vessel that it is in, and be like water. And I love that, because that basically says there is no Ankur Warikoo. And Ankur Warikoo will become Ankur Warikoo wherever he needs to be. If he's on LinkedIn, he will become that. If he's in a village, he'll become that. If he's on the streets, he'll become that. If he's staying in his house, he will become that. And I live life like that. So, long story short, the simple answer to your question is, I'm not worried because I'm not attached, and that makes it super super easy for me.
No, thank you, Ankur. I'm glad you said it this way because uh, strangely, I won't say sadly, but strangely, a lot of people who get into this are enamored by the fame that multiple people, and including yourself and many other people who've achieved. Of course, not everybody gets there, and uh, but people have still to follow the same path. But the expectations change, and if Ankur could do it in 2 years, we can do it in 1 year. Sure, you can. Please go ahead, but don't blame the universe, and don't blame yourself, and don't blame certainly Ankur, and now onwards on Shuman and Niharika as well. That if you don't get there, time like that. So everything takes time. Niharika, next question. Over to you.
Firstly, like your answer was really stoic. It was completely impermanence, me, my identity, two different entities. That's what I gauged from it. Okay, so basically, I'm also full time in the creator economy, like you are, right? Like, way early in my journey, but yeah, it's like my full-time thing, just like yours. And one question that even I get asked often is that, where do you think like the creator economy is headed? Like, because some people think that, oh, it's a fad, it happened during the pandemic, now it's going to finish. I personally don't think that, because I feel like, come on, like the world is still a creative place. We still have movies being made, songs being put out there, art and paintings, everything. And creator economy is nothing but that, but all digitized, right? But I would like to know it from you, your perspective, that where do you think it's headed? And like, five, maybe where do you think it's headed in 5 years? You think, still think it's worth it to venture into the creator economy?
So it depends, Niharika, on what you define as the creator economy as such. For me, the definition is Are you creating and sharing content online in order to push a certain objective? The objective could be to earn a living. The objective could be to build a personal brand. The objective could be to build distribution, to build trust. The objective could be to become a thought leader or any combination thereof. And if that's the case, then I firmly believe that we are in what I call the attention economy, where the biggest asset is attention because it is also the most scarce asset to find. And if you look historically, the last 500 years, if not more, of the world, the spikes in economic development have always happened around things that have been scarce. So there was a time when making food was scarce, and we had the agricultural burst. Then access to tools was scarce, so we had the industrial burst. Then access to labor or human resources was scarce, so we had the social burst. And I genuinely believe that we are in a space where attention is the most scarce. And that's why we have both almost in parallel an AI burst, which is taking care of a lot of the processing that requires deep attention, and also the creative economy, which is a lot of people creating these distribution channels to attract the attention of people. What you use that attention for completely remains your choice, and I believe will keep changing. So there are people right now who are using this attention, much like yourself, to teach people, to also create a stable professional career for yourself outside of the corporate rat race that we've all been sold for so many years. And maybe tomorrow, after 5 years, the attention is used to drive a public opinion, or to drive consensus, or to drive public policy, or perhaps to even organize communities in a way where we start becoming apolitical and we don't attach ourselves to, I don't know, countries or passports or identities. It could be anything. And that I wouldn't care about. What I care about is this to stay? And the answer is conclusively yes in my head. Anybody who wishes to do anything meaningful in the next 1 to 2 to 3 decades in the world has no choice but to become a personal
Mm.
brand in some capacity. And that doesn't mean that you have to go and create LinkedIn posts and Instagram reels and all that. If you run a newsletter, you are a creator. If you run a podcast, you are a creator. If you're sharing your thoughts over WhatsApp in an organized group in an organized fashion, you're a creator. So the medium and mode will differ, but the need to create a brand and to hold the attention of people at large is no longer a choice. It's a necessity, because that's the only thing that money cannot buy. You can't buy your way through someone's attention. You have to build that attention.
Very profound. I just wanted to mention that Anand Veshampayan, our good friend from the LeakApp thing, also asked almost the same question. So thank you, Anand. You read Niharika's mind. Uh, so Ankur, moving to, we have two profound questions, and the मौसम serious हो रहा है. So I will ask you a little bit, calmer question. Uh, so everybody follows you. You have like last count 10 million plus followers across platforms and so on. Fourth person or among the four people who have 2 million across three platforms and so on. So lots of stuff. Who do you follow?
Lots of people on different platforms. If I were to speak about LinkedIn, I follow Gary Vaynerchuk, who remains my true guru when it comes to content creation and personal branding. I've been following him for 10 plus years now, learned a lot from a distance from him and his consistency and his persistence. Sahil Bloom is someone that I follow on LinkedIn. He does a really good job. Stephen Bartlett is someone that I follow who does a good job. I follow the two of you, and I completely adore the conversations that the two of you have. And I really admire the consistency with which you can create content. And Ben Mead is somebody that I really like. But the thing that's happening with content, which I absolutely love, is it's becoming a mode of discovery for me, where I think algorithms are also becoming smarter, that it's not so much creators that we follow, but ideologies that we follow. And they keep serving those ideologies in a consistent manner. LinkedIn does a slightly poor job than most other platforms, but for example, Instagram, right now, almost all of my content is filled with just two things. It's filled with tennis, which is what consumes a lot of my mind, and I consume a lot of tennis content to just get my game in order, and a lot of healthy diet. So
Hmm.
I've literally my Instagram reel. I open it up and it's like, oh, protein-rich desserts and healthy oatmeal breakfast, and I'm just like digging these recipes like nobody's business, and I'm thoroughly enjoying it so much, and I'm testing it, and I love cooking myself, so I'm making that. So clearly, some really rock star engineer has found out the hack to get my attention for that period of time. I remember nearly 3 months back or so. Uh, all of my content on Instagram was around relationships. And it was because I was trying to form a theme around what could be the content that we position around relationships when it comes to 20-year-olds. So I was consuming a lot of content. I've never had a
Hmm.
heartbreak. I never had a breakup. I married the only woman that I dated. So I really don't know what it is to tell people and it's like, no, I'm going through a heartbreak. Can you tell me? They're like, मुझे पता ही नहीं bro कि तेरे साथ क्या हो रहा है. So like I wish I knew. So I had to, as a student, say like, okay, what are the three things somebody should do when they're going through heartbreak? And what are the three things that you should do when you're in a toxic relationship? Or what are the three things that you do when you feel like you're being emotionally manipulated? Because I have no idea. And it was almost like a study. So, the beauty of the world today is I don't think there are very few consistent creators that I need to follow, but I follow a lot more of thoughts and ideas than creators beyond the few names that I of course shared.
Interesting. Niharika, over to you.
I have to ask a bit serious only that a lot of us want to be like you, okay? And I don't mean like be Variku, but like be our own versions, like highest versions of ourselves. So like yeah, so not advocating like but blindly do what he's doing, but be at the same level as you are with whatever it is that we are doing. Now you are irrationally optimistic, so am I. Okay, and so tell us why we can get there. क्योंकि मुझे लगता है कर सकते हैं, ठीक है? But I'd also like to know what do you think can prevent us? Because I think that is going to be something that we can work towards.
Yeah. I feel the surest sign of degradation, Niharika, is when you get to a point and say to yourself, I already know this. That's when it's dead end. It's just completely dead end. So it's fascinating for me when I love observing people. I love getting into conversations with people. And uh, it's amazing how when, let's say I'll be talking about, hey, have you read this book, Atomic Habits by James Clear? And I know that they have because they're kind of people who would read such a book. But it's fascinating how they respond to this question because there are some people who will be like, yes, I have. Great. But there's some people who will be like, of course I have. And there's a very subtle nuance between these two. The person who says, yes, I have, is in some way implicitly implying, I've read this book, but I'm not sure if I have absorbed its entirety. Of course I have, is like, bro, I've read the book and I know what the book is. So you don't have to assume that I don't read such books or pass a judgment on me that are you even smart enough to read Atomic Habits? And this subtle nuance tells me where they are in that spectrum of being a student. So the only thing that will get in your way of wherever you want to be is if you convince yourself or blind yourself into believing that I already know. The truth is you don't. And there's always something to know, and there's always something to add. And it's an endless journey and it never ends. So just stay a student. Always stay a student. And if you are a student, you will continue learning, you'll continue absorbing the right things, you'll continue replicating them and implying that in your life. And that's the way you keep improving, but you always remain a student. You know, when you wonderfully introduced me, Niharika, as a teacher, and it makes me really happy. But I also know in my head, I am a really good student, and that makes me a good teacher, and not the other way around.
Question भूल गया. This was way too profound. So let's go to some audience questions, Ankur. I think Niharika and I can then take a breather, and the pressure is on now others. CJ is asking to you, how do you ensure exposure to ideologies that you don't regularly follow, so that your own mind and perspectives can expand? It's a deep one, but anything.
Yeah. No, I love this, CJ, and no, I'm not surprised it comes from someone like you. For me, the place to explore this is Twitter/X. I
Hmm.
I love spending Twitter. I love spending time on Twitter to just get deep into an area. It's like Wikipedia plus for me, because there's just so many fascinating conversations that there are. So I'll give you a simple example. It'll be, let's say, something going on in the world, anything at all, and there'll always be polarizing opinions around that. I will go and search for both sides, not take a side, and actually dig through all of that content to just consume it, because I don't think there's any other platform that will do such a honest job of it, because there's nobody incentivized to do anything. And if I am true to myself and I'm being honest to myself intellectually, then I will make sure that I cover the base for both. It's certainly not possible on Instagram. It's not possible on LinkedIn, YouTube also not so much. But Twitter, I genuinely feel, is a great platform to form opinion on either side, and make sure that it does so. So I one of my favorite questions is, pick a field that you follow. So some people are like, oh, we follow politics. It's great.
Hmm.
What do you mean when you say you follow politics? Because more often what it means is that they follow a certain party or a certain ideology. And my honest admission is, you cannot say that you follow politics if you don't know both the ideologies. So we are going through the biggest elections of the world right now, and if you haven't spent time in reading the manifesto of every political party, you do not follow politics. Simple. You cannot just read the manifesto of your chosen ideology and believe that you know everything. You don't. And then Twitter becomes that platform for me to do those. So I know that I'm intellectually honest, and that makes it fairly easy for me to do that. And I know that the place to be intellectually honest and to get that information is Twitter.
Not to amplify, but to maybe add a little bit. This is a similar question. Like, sometimes people ask you, what do you read? What do you like reading? And I do read a lot, but my answer is that I read whatever is in my hand. If there is a shampoo packet, also I will read whatever is on the shampoo packet,
Exactly.
because I'm in love with the act of reading. And
Yes.
sometimes you don't have to agree with what you're reading. If you are only reading what you agree with, you're actually going deeper into the quicksand, if by chance it was wrong. And
Absolutely.
at some level, everything is wrong, everything is right. So glad that you put it that way. Thanks, Ankur. One another question, Niharika, with your or without your permission. This is my show. Uh, I will I will take one more quick one. Anything quickly for this, Sanat Chaudhary. I may be mispronouncing the name, but how do you define success? Like what it is for you, and has your definition meaning, or has it evolved over the
Yeah.
years?
It has
And
certainly evolved. I think that's the easier answer. It certainly evolved. It used to be very different things. It is very different now. And I feel that it's a good sign if your definition of success keeps evolving, because then that shows that you're also evolving as an individual, and you are not chasing, but at least know intellectually what matters to you, and when and why. Today, success for me means the ability to do whatever I want to do without caring of what the world thinks of me. That is my success, because it's my independence, it's my liberation, it's it's my own identity. And I don't measure success anymore in terms of my bank balance or in terms of my status, certainly not in terms of my following or my position in society. It's just my ability to do things that I want to do for myself, and not care about what the world thinks. And I got to this point because I realized early on, not because of anyone's fault, entirely mine. I was living a life where I was doing a lot of things because people asked me to do it, or I thought that people want me to do it. But I
Mm.
wasn't doing as many things as I wanted to do. So I was suddenly leading somebody else's life. And that resulted in a combination of frustration, resentment, anything that is not a positive emotion. And I realized that that will never make me feel happy and certainly not successful. So I would then just absolutely go and be like, this is my current definition of success and I love it.
Um, we thought this will be a fun show, Niharika. This is getting very profound. I think Ankur being at ISB is the fault. So let us blame ISB for this together, and then we are good. In my team, Ankur, there's a joke, running joke that as quickly we try and find somebody to blame or something to blame, and then we can have a conversation. Otherwise, everybody's thinking whom to blame. But I just to lighten the moment, Niharika, over to you. Next question.
So I was reading the questions, and this is like something I also wanted to ask, and I think a few people have already asked that. And मतलब जो उन्होंने assumption किया वो सच है, because मुझे बहुत fascinating लगा first time जब हम मिले, and मतलब I think gate से table तक शायद 10 मीटर का difference हो, और बीच में वारिकू को 3-4 लोग मिल लेते हैं. This is casually on like a weekday, 9:30 a.m. morning, where restaurants are not even crowded, but when Marco is walking, to reach the person, there are 4 or 5 people. He'll be like, "Yeah, hi, how are you? Hi, how are you?" Because people are meeting him. So I'm just like, yeah, he is famous. I don't want to imagine what happens on a weekend or when he goes to a mall. Um, Sounds very deadly to an introvert like me, but yeah, how does it feel? I would say, whether it's yeah, to be famous, but also you must be going out with your family a lot, right? Like with your kids and with your wife. So how is it that time, and how does it feel otherwise also?
The honest answer to that, Niharika, is just an immense sense of gratitude. I really, really adore that people come up to me and express their love, their emotions, because it's just so endearing, and you feel so wonderful being in that spot. I certainly feel really good about it. It's not something that I'm attached to, but certainly that I wonderfully enjoy. And because people are generally nice, and I don't think of myself as a celebrity in the sense that people don't want to touch me or eat from the plate that I'm eating. Like none of that is happening. No? They see me from a distance. They come. They ask for a selfie at best. I'm happy to click one for them. And I would then just let them be, and they'll go on their own. So it is not troublesome for me at all, and I never refuse a selfie or any interaction with people. Ruchi, my wife, she's gotten very used to it, and she actually likes it. But she also says, and there are moments where she's like, you know what, it's actually really nice to go to a mall just by myself now, because then I don't get stopped and I'm just in my flow. So she does that, and she makes her own choices come through as well. And kids, I think I like the fact that kids see us conduct ourselves in a certain way that I am proud of and I would want them to learn from, which is irrespective of who approaches you and what you may think of them and any judgment or any bias that you have against them, you would still receive them warmly and you would still acknowledge their presence and you will still remind yourself that whosoever you are from a public persona, it's because of their love and not what you have done. And I'd like them to grow up thinking that that is the right thing to do. So I'm in fact very happy that they get to see this and they see this as a indirect lesson to learn from.
But when they see you like this, do they feel that this is what life is going to be for them as well? Because they're so young and this is like an illusion. What you see so frequently becomes like your normal, right? Like for like let's just say like what Kareena Kapoor said, and I can't believe I'm comparing you to Kareena Kapoor, but what she said in one of the interviews was that her son thinks he's a celebrity because everyone's always like, the paparazzi is always clicking him. So do they so that's like that's their normal? Do your kids think like, okay, like this is what our life is and this is their normal, and even when they grow up, like this is what it's going to be, that they're going to be eating food or walking to a mall and people will just come up?
They uh, they don't thankfully experience that because one, consciously, I don't bring my kids in any of my public posts. Uh, People don't see them. I don't bring them in any photograph that I click with anyone publicly. It's just me and Ruchi. So they're completely abstracted from them. They just see it as an observer. They just see it as a witness. So yes, they will feel that their parents are public figures, but they certainly wouldn't feel that they are public figures. And at least so far, we don't have any reason to believe that that's getting to their head. Like कभी ये नहीं हुआ कि जानता मेरा बाप कौन है. तो वो वो मोमेंट नहीं आया है. एंड जब तक वो नहीं आया, आई थिंक वी आर ऑन सेफ ग्राउंड.
अंकुर अब तो बॉडी भी बना ली है, अब तो बोल सकते हैं बच्चे कि तो which is also another question. It's a good segue. Today your video, the fitness video is launching. Why did you have to do this, Ankur? You have ruined so many lives. My wife saw that post, my son saw that post. ये देखो, ये होता है. And I'm like, man, why could he not have done it next week? And but anyway, on a more serious note, why this sudden? It's of course not sudden. Fascination with fitness and getting to zero fat and other stuff. Anything on that?
So the running joke is I make videos where I talk about 500 रुपए की एसआईपी करेंगे तो 30 साल में, 40 साल में, 50 साल में आपके पास इतने करोड़ रुपए हो जाएंगे. एंड ऑफ कोर्स द कमेंट्स आर, सर तब तक जिंदा ही नहीं रहेंगे. एंड द जोक इज कि अगर मैं 40 साल की एसआईपी एंडोर्स कर रहा हूँ तो मुझे खुद भी जिंदा रहना पड़ेगा उस 40 साल की एसआईपी को देखने के लिए. सो आई एम जस्ट प्रिपेयरिंग फॉर द नेक्स्ट 40 years of my life at 44, ensuring that I wouldn't at least naturally suffer from something that I could have avoided. I have been working out for now 10 years. It's really given me a fresh lease of life. I genuinely believe that my second life started when I started working out at the age of 32. And at 33, I got six-pack abs. And this was more like a 10th year anniversary, trying to remind people कि आप ये कर सकते हैं irrespective of the age, and it is frankly just a choice that you make. I want to do it at 53, at 63, at 73, at 83, at 93, or whatever three I live to. And that's the commitment that I've made in my head. And the chota sa nuance here, which is, no, it's fascinating how these chote triggers happen in life, leading you to happy grounds. करीब 7 या 8 साल पहले, if I'm not wrong, हिंदुस्तान टाइम्स का एक ब्रंच करके मैगजीन आता है, which is something that I really used to enjoy. They stopped it during COVID. And one of those days, on the cover of the magazine was Farhan Akhtar at 43, looking really sharp. And the title of the cover was Fat Free at 43. And when I saw that, I was like, at 43, I would want to be saying the same thing. So while I was physically always fit, but the fat-free bit came in as an inspiration from Farhan Akhtar, and fat-free at 43 then became a theme that I worked towards.
I remember that I was 42 at that time, so I had less time less time than you. But बेचारे छोला भटूरा and लस्सी वालों का क्या होगा? What?
मैंने भी
But
खाया,
no,
मैं बहुत खाया है. Like the beauty is that जब आप वीडियो देखेंगे आज, I hopefully I hope to see you take that takeaway कि अपनी जिंदगी को मारने की जरूरत नहीं है. Like it's very achievable. I've done all of that. मैंने मीठा खाया है. I love मीठा. I love desserts. I love my chole bhature. I love my meethi lassi, and I absolutely love my food. So all of
okay.
that has happened, and I've still gotten to that point. तो ऐसा नहीं है कि आपको अपनी जिंदगी मार के ही इस point पे पहुंचना पड़ेगा. You can actually enjoy it. It's a mathematical equation that once you get the hang of, it's repeatable.
I'm going to use the last 10 seconds as a clip. That's all. बाकी बाकी नहीं.
Can I
Quite a
add
few
to
comments.
that a
Yeah,
bit?
please do.
कि
Yeah.
मतलब I remember मतलब I started working out अब like इस जून में 10 साल हो जाएंगे and सबको लगता है ना कि working out means like कि कुछ भी नहीं खाते and like you're just on some diet, but the thing is it's actually बस like it's just about the small choices. मतलब honestly I feel junk at home whether you deep fry it, it's actually less fattening than even the a lot of healthy food we get outside because of the kind of oil and everything used. So मतलब it's a very fun journey. It's anything but marna, and it gets really addictive because the moment you start seeing just thoda sa bhi result na, then you're like you look at the mirror and you're like, oh god, I could do this. I think I want to do more now. I want to do more. So yeah, I completely agree when like everyone thinks you matlab maar rahe ho, kuch kha nahi rahe, but matlab it's a very different thing altogether. It's a very happy journey, if I can add to that.
Good.
Totally.
Quite a few comments coming in, Ankur. So I'll just, bring in some comments. Preeti Kalra talks about that student part that you shared. She's seems to be from an education background, so quite a few. One interesting question. It wasn't on our list, but I think it makes sense. Aniket Rai, also from our LinkedIn creator group, asks. He writes a lot about books and all. But his question is today about how do you deal with trolls, and you get a lot. So I started getting some recently, and it took half an hour of my life away. Then next time it took 10 minutes away, and then third time I said, "Baal mein jao." But what happens to you?
Yeah, that your answer is mine. I have two firm convictions. Conviction number one is no one gets up in the morning saying I want to mess up with Ankur Warikoo's life today. I genuinely feel that people have their own busy
Yeah.
lives and their own struggles. And किसी और की जिंदगी को बर्बाद करने का उनका बिल्कुल भी इरादा नहीं है. Conviction number two, if people do end up saying something which is mean spirited, which is not in the right taste, then they must have something difficult going on in their life to get to that point to shit on a complete stranger. And my job then is to one, deploy empathy, but more importantly, for a selfish reason, try and see what is it that they're actually saying. So my best question in this moment is, what are they truly trying to say? And I often find an answer. Right? So people will be like, अरे जब YouTube खोलते हैं आपका ad आ जाता है, दिमाग खराब कर दिया है, YouTube premium लेना पड़ गया है, blah 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 blah. And they will say it in multiple ways, right? They will use the choicest of abuses. They may say it nicely. They may say it with a mixed bag, whatever the case is. Mera farz hai to just ask what are they truly trying to say. Because if I really pull out the core of it and conclude that the frequency of my ads is something that irritates people, and if we can fix that, then I will only become a better version of what I currently do and who I am. And that's fascinating. Why wouldn't I do that? So it really moves me forward when I engage with a quote unquote troll and try to understand what is it that they genuinely want to say. And I can vouch for the fact that nearly 70 to 80% of the times, I do get something to work upon. And that really drives me.
So there you go, Aniket, your answer. And I think this is probably true for almost every creator, Ankur, because at some point you will get a little famous, provided, of course, you are putting in the hard work and all, and there will be people who will have something to say. And like you said, if you just pick what is the core message and leave out the other stuff, life is slightly better. I've learned that more recently. Of course, I've started getting only more recently with my numbers increasing. So, but I really don't look forward to that. It does spoil your mood for quite some time. At least for us, you've gotten hard, thick skin, in that sense, or have better ways, coping mechanisms. Niharika, over to you. Next question, and then I will meanwhile select a few from the audience.
Yeah, and जो आपके साथ आधा घंटा हुआ था ना, when I got told, at least like it wasted half an hour of your life. When I got told, I was sitting alone and I just cried. I'm looking at my screen and for half an hour, I just kept crying. And I kept crying, kept crying. I blocked the person, but I still kept crying. I could just really not stop crying. I don't know. Like, I am a crybaby in general. Like, I cry in all movies, but I just could not stop crying because I was just like, this person doesn't even know me. How could they say that? From that and to like yesterday when again I got trolled, I just like now I just block. I don't think मुझ में इतना वो है कि मैं इनके साथ engage करूँ क्योंकि 99% वो anonymous profiles होती हैं. They're actually without their real name and face, and at least on Twitter if you check in their replies then you see कि उन्होंने they're only trolling people. Then you figure out that okay, like it's not just me, they're targeting like everyone out there because something is going on with them that people project their insecurities on others. So yeah, that's like my bit to add on the previous question. I think my question to you, Variko, is like now 3 books are done. I know you're writing more. What's next, and what's the cover color? I've already suggested you before we started, but what is the color? Because I'm laying them out like together, no? Like Anshuman also has. Like I've also laid
Hmm.
my series together. So
Hmm.
yeah.
I really like the idea of a blue cover the next time around. So the next book will be on career. The one after that will be on relationships. The one after that most likely will be on bootstrapping a startup. And I don't have visibility beyond that as yet. So I know the next 3 years and the next 3 books that I'm writing, and I love the journey. So I'll continue writing as long as I continue loving it.
Can the relationships one be pink cover?
I think that's a great idea. I will certainly take it into account.
Cool. Um, while we are on books, I can't, and Niharika, you know why, but I can't not take a question from Binati. So, Ankur, Binati is a, ghostwriter, editor, written a lot of books for other people and all. A fantastic person on books. But her question is about your current book recommendations from a mindset point of view. Of course, you can expand the question, but
Sure.
anything. And there are 4, 5 other people who have the same question, but I picked Binati. I know her.
Sure. Um, because this is a slightly more evolved audience than a massy audience, my recommendations will change slightly. I have tremendously benefited from a book that I read in 2009 called Rework. It remains one of my most gifted books of all times, and I certainly would recommend that book to just change the way that you think about work in general. So that's one book that I would endorse for sure. The second one, particularly for entrepreneurs, irrespective of whether you're a bootstrapped one or a funded one, is this book called The Hard Thing About Hard Things. It's by Ben Horowitz. Brilliant book, which basically brings to reality what entrepreneurship journey is and completely dispels all myths around it and all grandness that we all feel it is. And the third book, which I would only recommend if you are 35 and beyond, so Niharika, not for you as yet, uh, because it really gets you to question everything and every belief of yours in not necessarily a good way, is this book called Atmaman. It's a book by Dr. Kapil Gupta. Atmaman, Atmamun. Um, one of the best books I've ever read, if not the best book I've ever read, because as I said, it makes you question literally every belief of yours that you've lived your life with so far.
Good. So there you go, Binati. You got some usual answer and one unusual answer. And on the previous question, when we were talking about trolls, this is a family thing. I have family members in this. Shikha is my sister. So she is trying to say that Kavi कहना क्या चाहता है gives you a lot more answers. So I think we are a family who will totally relate with this. So there you go. I've done my family duties. Uh, Over to you, Niharika. Anything else you want to quickly cover while I look for more? Quite a few questions on actually creator life, uh, uh, Ankur, and at least 3 4 hour around. How do you get started? I know that this may not be the right thing, but any quick tip on how do you get started? Um, Everybody's journey
I
will be different. We understand, but how do you get
yeah,
started?
yeah. I genuinely believe that the biggest resistance to starting is you yourself, and
Hmm.
your fear of that whatever you're going to ship out is not good enough. And we all suffer from that. It's imposter syndrome is real, and my honest confession there would be you're never going to get it out of it. It is there is never a point, at least I haven't certainly reached a point where the imposter syndrome goes away. You just have to use it not to paralyze you, but to propel you. And by that admission, the best thing to do is just start shipping. Don't aim for your best work possible, aim for your most consistent work possible. And as long as you're consistent, the algorithms will love you, your people will know that you show up irrespective of how circumstances are, and that consistency will then get them to trust you, to follow you, to endorse you. So the surest thing that you can do is to just get started and be at it. Be at it. Don't stop.
Good. I just included Vikas's question. It's similar question, so Vikas, I hope you got the answer. Preeti Kalra has posed this question 2 3 times, so I'm assuming that she really needs an answer. And this will probably be the last or so question. Ankur, we know that we have your time till 12. Uh, Her question is around, will be nice if we can include this, which is the question. Our education system does not prepare us from being our own version of Ankur Warikoo. In fact, it is quite the opposite. What are your thoughts? And actually, Niharika and I, when we were discussing, we included a parenting question, which we could not include because of the other question. But that was that, if parents or children today want to do what they want to do, even though times are better than they were 20 years ago, how do we deal with it? Because if my son who's doing architecture comes and say that I want to do museum design, I'm going to think that gaye paise dub gaye. So, but what is your view on this, and specifically for Preeti's question?
I would first concur with Preeti here. I think our education system makes us very risk averse. It makes us fit into a box and tells us that there is only one path to so-called success that is defined by society already for you. And if you don't follow that path, or worse, if you fail on that path, then you know don't have any hope in hell. And that's certainly not true. And I think all of us, in many ways, have experienced that. Niharika is a great example where she's walked on paths that very few people have walked on, and she's doing commendably well. Anshuman is a great example of somebody who changed course fairly late in life to do all that he's doing, which he doesn't need to, by the way, because he's already accomplished in what he's doing, but he chooses to share and create content and be consistent. I've had a very different journey as well. So you already have 3 examples, and these are not handpicked. This is frankly, you throw a stone and you'll get many such examples. Our education system, I don't I don't know if the question is whether we should change it or not. I certainly believe that parents play an extremely important role. I've often gone on record saying that the next 2 to 3 decades in this world is going to be shaped up or be completely destroyed basis the quality of parenting that comes through. Parenting is the most important profession in the world today. And unfortunately,
Mm,
nobody is trained on how to be a good parent. We all learn on the job. And because we learn on the job, we make mistakes. We don't recognize the full repercussion of those mistakes. We certainly don't have it within us to accept those mistakes and make amendments. And if all of that continues, then we are doomed as a world. But if we recognize the responsibility we have, and we say, okay, school is doing what it has to do, college is doing what it has to do, but we need to act as custodians of the kind of people that we raise, then the world has some hope. And what that means is change from output based parenting to input based parenting. What do I mean by output based parenting? Output based parenting is what worked for our parents. that you have to become this. You have to become an engineer. You have to become a lawyer. You have to go to IIT. You have to go to IIM. You have to have an output defined and you work towards that output. Input based parenting is it doesn't matter where you end up being, here is how you have to conduct yourself. So, your input is, say, your values, your mindset, your worldview, your mental models. And parenting is defining that and helping that. And if you get that right, then don't over index on what the output is, because the output is going to be a favorable one. It may not be what you're used to. So your
Hmm.
son or daughter may not become an engineer or a lawyer or a doctor, which in your world was a complete, absolute, predictable outcome. They may end up becoming a solopreneur as Niharika. That may not even a profession that you know of or know how to define, but the inputs, if done well, will ensure that whatever is it that your kids do will be the right thing to do. You can't predict the future. You can only prepare yourself for it. And I believe that parenting input based is good preparation. Education can only complement, but it does more harm than good. That's my opinion, which is why I am in education and hopefully trying to change some bit of it.
Fantastic. So many questions more, Ankur, but I know that we booked only an hour, and of course, you know, these most of these questions are on LinkedIn, so we will try. And whenever, if you get some time during the day, if you can answer a little bit here and there, that will help. Uh, Deep gratitude. Thank you very much for doing this for us, for the audience, and I'm sure this also proves that one of the reasons why Niharika and I wanted you, and I hope that you will be on this show, is because this gives us hope. This gives us also some journey path that, okay, if you keep doing what you're doing, it may take longer for some, but you can get where Ankur has got. Uh, of course, Ankur will be far ahead by that time, so we won't catch him. But and this is an example during my quality days. As a quality professional, I learned from Toyota, where they openly show their entire factory, and they keep saying that, look, I learn while we learn while we teach. So you come in, you will give us some idea, we will use it, and it will work. So we do hope also that as you shared your lessons with our audience, you picked up something that you could use. And more power to the fitness video. I can't let you go without the reminder of the fitness video. So everybody who is still watching, if you are living on Mars and still don't follow Ankur Warikoo, please do. And if there is some love left, Niharika and I also do a fairly good job. We could also enjoy your follow. With that, Niharika, anything you want to say as we close?
Yeah, just thank you, Anshuman. This is the first time I've done something like this. It's been like made me nervous, but it's been fun. Thank you, Variku, always dropping bombs of wisdom. Yeah, like somebody can keep talking to you for hours and it'll pass. And yeah, thanks to everyone who tuned in to like take out time from your weekend after such a hectic week. I'm really grateful for it. I'm sure we all are. Thank you so much for that.
Thank you once again. And if you have anything to say, else we will end this stream, Ankur.
No, thank you. Thank you for having me again, Anshuman, and thank you, Niharika, for being as wonderful as you always are. I again absolutely respect the journey that you've been on, and I wish for more and more success, more and more learning. It's very clear that you are an eager student, that irrespective of all the things that you've done, you still humbly admit that you know little or perhaps even nothing. And that is the reason why you continue doing this. And it's very endearing and very inspiring for me. So thank you. And thank you
Thank you
for
very much.
everyone for your thoughtful questions. I absolutely love my time. And if there's anything that I can help you all with, please don't hesitate to reach out. I'm more than happy to hear from all of you. Thank you.
Thank you very much. To everyone, the show will take a break after this. I need some break after this. So in another 2, 3 weeks, in a new format, with a new series of guests, we'll be back. Thank you and bye bye. We'll end the stream now. Bye bye.